Two girls chilling in a hot tub, 5 centimeters apart because they're not gay. Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. It's that time of the month, so I'll give you the spiel. I've got a Patreon. If you're a high-tier sub, you get to recommend one 10-minute testing a month, and if you're a low-B, you get to vote on them. This month, thank the Lord, people wanted to see something that is, at minimum, playable. I was happy to keep Darklord in OMO territory, but I think we've got an angle that warrants a 10-minute testing. Presenting Solfachord Darklord. So here's the list from Jesus Ruiz's second place finish at a Spanish regional. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Despite what some Yu-Gi-Tubers who shall not be named would have you believe, the TCG is alive and well. And if you're looking to start your journey into paper, there's no better place to begin than Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. With up-to-the-minute reporting on every major tournament worldwide, searchable and interactable pie charts and deck lists, and all the bells and whistles you've come to expect from one of the best draft and collection management sites on the net, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the place to be. Check it out today at www.ygoprodeck.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's dive into Darklord. Darklord's an exceptionally old archetype. Previously just a rough assemblage of cards that showed up as prizing, they came into their own in 2016 when they became one of several in-format, extremely expensive decks that were tier 2 at best. These days, their legacy is as a perennial player in Duel Links and an engine in Exodia. Ixchel sure draws 2 cards. Until now! Courtesy of some new support in Burst Protocol, Darklord's got what could lovingly be called a line. Consistent access to their extremely powerful back row a la Rescue Ace with none of the associated bricking. What's more, Forbidden is a sub-archetype of Darklord, and as a result, it's the premier way in the format not only to get Droplet, but also to make use of the newly released Forbidden Crown. What's more, by splashing a small Solfachord engine into the list, you can also insulate your plays with Kulia and make it to Condemned Darklord, a generic-ish Link 2 that represents your full combo. Ultimately, you're trying to summon Lucifer, Evening Star, and then activate Dance to make the monsters on field have lesbian sex. Maybe those Christian moms in the aughts were onto something. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up are Darklords, 3 copies of Jehudi. If normal or special summon, can special summon a Darklord from your deck in defense position, and you are locked into fairies for the rest of the turn. If you control a Dark Fairy Fusion monster, this can be banished from the graveyard to target a Darklord or Forbidden Quick Play spell in your graveyard and add it to your hand. 3 copies of Google A, which can only be special summoned once per turn, and if specialed, can special summon 2 Darklord tokens, and you are fairy locked. If sent to the graveyard, you can add a Darklord or a Forbidden card from your deck to your hand. After that, we've got 3 Ixchel, 1 Morningstar because he's material on the first Darklord, and 1 copy of Indulged Darklord. If normally special summoned, you can take 2 Darklord monsters from your hand or deck with different levels except itself, special one of them to your opponent's field and defense position and add the other to your hand. Also, you can't activate monster effects for the rest of the turn, except fairy monsters. Now, don't worry, giving your opponent a monster is going to end up being a good thing for us. We've got 2 copies of Solfachord Primoria, 1 copy of Cutia, and 1 copy of Solfegia. For spells, we've got 3 copies of Banishment, 2 copies of Darklord Dance, which allows you to fusion summon a Dark Fairy Fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing monsters from your hand, field, or graveyard as material, and the monster special summon this way gains 1,000, but if you summon a Darklord Fusion, you can use Darklords your opponent controls. We've got a Contact and then 3 copies of Solfachord Happiness alongside a Foolish Burial. Finally, we are on 1 Rebellion and 1 The Sanctified Darklord for non-engine. We are on 3 Mulcharmy Fulos, 3 copies of Ash Blossom Joyspring, 3 Herald of Orange Light because the whole deck is fairies, 3 Droplets, and a Forbidden Crown in the extra. We've got double Condemned Darklord, Grand Solfachord Kulia, Grand Solfachord Musicia, Protector of the Agent's Moon, Herald of Mirage Lights, Muddragon of the Swamp, Garura Wings of Resonant Life, and Secretary on Dragon, because this is in fact a super poly deck, Azamina Illisilvia and Saint Azamina, and then Darklord Evening Star, of which we are playing 2. Your opponent can't target this card with card effects, and each of these effects is once per turn. If fusion summoned, you can set both a Darklord spell and a Darklord trap from your deck, and as usual, just like most Darklords, you can pay 1,000 to target a Darklord spell or trap in your graveyard, apply the activation effect, then shuffle it into the deck. Finally, we have 2 copies of the first Darklord, whose important effect here is if fusion summoned, using Morningstar as material, you can blow up your opponent's entire field. On the side, we've got 1 copy of the one I'm not going to try. 2 Droll and Lockbird, Called by the Grave, a Harpy's Feather Duster, 3 Super Poly, 2 Triple Tactics, Thrust, and a Talent, 3 Evenly Matched, and a Darklord Uprising for a little more coverage. So with that, let's hop into some games. Our first match is up against Dracotail. Yeah, that's right, I got faith in this one. All right, we're going first, and our hand looks up fine, a little Balatro-y, but no big deal. Ixchel will fix that. We'll fire off a Happiness, and from here we should just get to the Solfachord half of the deck. We'll go Solfachord Primoria, and we'll activate the effect. Next, we'll go Solfegia, summoning it to our side of the field, and Solfegia to bring out the Cutia. From here, we can trigger the effect of the Cutia for the last Solfachord in our deck on our way to Musica. We'll activate the effect of the Primora to cycle back, then we'll set the Solfegia and link off into a Coolia. We will set Scales, and then perform a Pendulum Summon, get 1, 2 from the face-up extra, and then use the effect of the Primoria as well to get it back in a hand. Now let's start Darklording. Let's go Banishment, and then link off for a copy of Condemned. We'll use a Condemned, pitching a copy of Google A in order to grab a copy of Jehudi. We'll activate Google A's effect in order to grab Forbidden Droplet before normal summoning Jehudi and activating its effect to summon an Indulged from our deck. Indulged will trigger, and we will give our opponent a Google A. Afterwards, we'll link off for Herald of the Mirage Lights, and then go Darklord Dance for an Evening Star. We'll activate its effect, setting a Contact and the Trap card before going for Jehudi, cycle back this copy of Google A, set a card, and pass. At end step, we will gain 1 trillion life points before passing back to our opponent. Now, their hand isn't bad. They're going to begin with a copy of Labubu. That's probably worth a Forbidden Droplet to us. Afterwards, we will activate the effect of the Google A in order to grab a copy of Ixchel for next turn as they go for Rahu. That's worth a Herald of Mirage Lights, but unfortunately, they still do have a way to get their plays started via Phimena. They'll go Arthalion 1, Urgula 2, Malulu 3, Frixel 4, and we'll go Evening Star 5, targeting the Dance, Sanctified 6, in order to negate the effect of the Arthalion, stranding everything at the graveyard. We'll go into the first Darklord, but unfortunately, it's not going to blow up the board because the Malulu can still negate its effect on chain. They do get the entire back row, but I'm still feeling pretty good about the position we're in. They go for Ketu, we go for Ash Blossom, and from this position they can use Urgula to get back 5 mana, but can't do much else. They'll set this copy of Sting and pass, and we should just be able to clean them up from here. Our monsters are very big. They're going to go for Sting, targeting 3 cards in our yard. We will chain Evening Star, targeting one of the targeted cards to shuffle it back and make another copy of Evening Star. That's going to trigger Evening Star and get us access to another trap and another dance as we go to the main phase. Let's just go combat, crash, and get in for lethal. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, our opponent for game 2 is on Cool Tune, and our hand is a little heavy on the Solfachords, I'll be honest. They're going to begin with a copy of Q that's worth an Ash Blossom, I think, but unfortunately they have the JJ Cool Tune, which means they can use its effect to cycle the Q for a copy of Mix. Mix is going to grab the Mariko, and they can use the extra normal off the JJ Cool Tune in order to bring it to the field, getting a copy of Clip on their way to a powerful play. They'll make Trackmaker and trigger the effect of the Clip in sequence, banishing... Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Musica? Okay, well, we only have 1 of that, which really sucks with a handful of Solfachords. They're going to go for the classic Zaylin plus Cool Tune Remix end board. We'll draw for turn. That's a pretty good draw. We'll go for Banishment to the Darklords here to get a copy of Google A. Then we'll normal summon a copy of Primoria. We'll activate its effect for Solfachord Happiness. We can go ahead and Herald of the Orange Light the activation of the Cool Tune Remix, forcing them to Zaylin, at which point we can Crown. But unfortunately, they have a Fallen and the Virtuous to target their own Zaylin, get it off the board, and as a result, negate my effect. That means they are going to be able to resolve the effect of the Remix and go into RS. We do get to resolve the effect of our Happiness and bring out our entire hand, but from here, though we can trigger Google A, they can pop one of our Solfachords with Mix's effect and contest the contact with the RS. Ugh, if only we had a Link 2 to go into. At end step, they're going to use the effect of the Albion and Graveyard in order to set a Fallen to the Virtuous and draw for turn. This should be all she wrote. They're going to use the effect of the JJ Cool Tune for the extra normal, getting a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit on their way to a Mix from deck, trigger the effect of the Mix in order to grab a copy of Q and then use the extra normal to Q into Rico. From here, they can trigger the effect of the Rico in order to grab a Clip, go into a Loudness War, trigger the effect of the Q, lock us, and give us an Ash Blossom on the bottom of our deck. Let's just go next. I swear Cool Tune is a psyop designed specifically to elicit that reaction. Clip hits something consequential, forcing you to go onto Twitter and whine about how it needs to be banned. Well, it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on Radiant Typhoon. That's cool, right? Can't do branded Dracotail forever. We're going first, and our opponent has a Fuelos. Thankfully, we have the Herald of Orange Light to contest it. That said, things are about to get a little dicey as we go for a Happiness. They're going to Ash, which forces us to pretty much do nothing. Okay, well, let's see if this Fuelos can get the job done. They're going to go Swen, we'll Fuelos here. It does resolve, thankfully. Afterwards, we're going to go for a Radiant Typhoon Chant. That is going to grab from deck to hand a copy of Eldam. They'll Crocia afterwards, and oh my god, we might be dead even without it. They'll grab a couple of cards, including a Mystical Space Typhoon on their way to Eldam in order to grab a Megala. They'll special summon the Megala, activate Ascendance, and then activate Mystical Space Typhoon so they can pop the Ascendance and reset it. They'll grab another MST, trigger the effect of the Megala, and reset the Ascendance. They're going to grab via the Megala this copy of Phonics, which draws us a card! Okay, well, maybe we'll try again next duel. Woof. Pretty embarrassing game 1, but maybe we can bring it back for game 2. It looks like our opponent only has one piece of non-engine interaction, and we have a pretty good hand here. We're going to go ahead and begin with a copy of Primoria. We're going to activate the effect. They will Dominus Purge, but that's kind of fine. We'll go Foolish Burial in order to send a copy of Google A, then use the effect of the Google A in order to grab a copy of Dance. From here, we can dance the hard way to get a copy of Evening Star to our side of the field, then activate its effect to get both a Sanctified Darklord and here a Banishment because we are lacking in plays. We'll grab a Contact here, then activate the effect of the Evening Star targeting the Banishment so we can get a copy of Morning Star as well as we link off for a Condemned Darklord and go Contact in order to bring back the Evening Star. We'll go Condemned Darklord in order to grab a copy of Ixchel, then Ixchel in order to draw a couple of cards, and wouldn't you know it, we hit a happiness. Oh my god. We'll send a Jehudi as we special summon out a Cutia, activate the Cutia effect to get a copy of Primoria, scale the Solfachord, link off for a Kulia, trigger the effect of the Jehudi in Graveyard in order to cycle back the Forbidden Droplet, set one, pass back to our opponent. Looks good. Our opponent's going to begin with a copy of Eldam. They'll activate its effect in order to grab a Crocia, then they'll MST. From here, we will lose our Forbidden Droplet as they activate Crocia, but that's probably, to me, worth the Herald of Orangelight. They'll go Swen effect, we'll go Evening Star targeting Dance. That allows us to banish from the yard to make the first Darklord, and though they do get to resolve the effect of the Swen, we get to blow up their board in response. They will chain Shant in order to grab a Megala. We will pop their board. They'll go for the Megala, followed by an Ascendance, which we can negate, courtesy of our Grand Solfachord Kulia and the monster in our Pendulum scale. We will go for Sanctified Darklord on their Megala in response to the MST, which means that its effect will be negated and we'll be able to walk with it after a little bit of a Typhon dalliance. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and okay, Harpies, Droll and Lock, Forbidden Crown is not bad, especially because this is one of the hands where they've opened a Pot of Extravagance. That means at start of main, they'll activate Pot of Extravagance, draw 2 off the top, and walk headfirst into Droll, great Noble Knight's Shield Bearer. They're going to MST this Dominus Purge to trigger the effect of the Megala and the effect of the Crocia, but that just gets them the Crocia and the Vibrant Vortex. Crocia can add back from Graveyard, but just cycling an MST isn't fantastic, especially when the Harpies Feather Duster is coming. They will MST the Harpies Feather Duster and chain the Fallen and the Virtuous in order to destroy it so that they can set an Albion for the future. That triggers the Megala, but we will chain Forbidden Crown in order to negate it. From here, we'll normal summon a copy of Jehudi, activate the effect. They fire off their only point of interaction, the Vibrant Vortex, and we activate the Herald of Orangelight, pitching our hand. Now, how far can we get with 0 cards? Well, pretty far, it turns out. We'll go Indulge Darklord, giving them an Ixchel and grabbing a Google A on our way to Condemned Darklord, which gets us another Ixchel. Google A will trigger to get us a copy of Dance. Then we can activate Dance using their monster to go into Evening Star. Evening Star will set a Banishment and the Trap card, then go for the Banishment in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Morning Star, which we can pitch with the Ixchel to trade into something relevant. We will use the effect of the Jehudi to grab back the Forbidden Crown, then activate the effect of the Evening Star in battle in order to summon out the first Darklord with Morning Star in order to clear the board. That's 4, 5, and 16, enough to get over the Megala for lethal. So we're back with the deck, and honestly, pretty impressive stuff. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, the new Darklord cards give the deck an identity. It used to have to rely on outside engines to make the first Darklord, but now with Google A plus Dance and Evening Star, the deck has a definitive end board that's very layered. It also frequently ends on Mirage Light and multiple negates alongside a board wipe if you open well. 2, Jehudi is a 1-card combo, but the deck's got a lot of 2-card combos as well. The Solfachords give the deck these extenders that reinforce the board. Happiness is a 1.5 for the full Darklord board. Any 2 fairies can be linked off for Condemned. There's a lot of moving parts, but it can still play quite minimally. And 3, the deck is not particularly tight. You have a lot of slots for non-engine. Due to how Google A and Jehudi work, the Forbidden Quick Play spells are this weird sub-engine you get to access via their searches and graveyard add-backs, so you already have something to beat your opponent's board, even if you're staying in engine. And the cons. 1, Darklord Dance is kinda hard to get to. If you go through Banishment, the only search that gets to Dance is Google A, so they can ash that, and then you're locked out and have to, draw it with Ixchel. Only having 2 ways to search spell traps and often getting fairy locked before knowing if you're able to search Dance means you can lose a lot of ceiling to heavy hand trap use. Also, Dance is super fragile. Having it negated can just cut off your whole board. 2, the deck feels really rough into Fua. Your lowest ceiling boards aren't terrible, but you lose a lot of setup and card advantage and still give them at least 2 draws, which isn't ideal. And 3, Graveyard Hate is quite good against the deck. A well-timed Bell, or DD Crow, or Bestial can make your Dance fizzle and leave you in a rough position. Overall, the Darklord support gave the deck an identity, which is more than we can say for previous iterations of Darklord support. Still, it's getting better next set, and is definitely a deck that can steal games off of the best of them. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. This entire ordeal wouldn't be possible without the consistent funding I get from my patrons, some of whom have paid a lot of money for me to say their name at the end of the video. So here's me doing that. Absolutely Fran, Elena Tincher, Allison Elliott, Ally, APK Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Broski TCG, Cap, Cool Name, Dark Rebel XYZ, DJ Elefante, El Gravo, Emiliano Deverio, NB Adams, Fabrizio Petroli, Hergalicious, Jackie Z, James Place, JP, Cole Offline, Creature, Legal Rights, Lucas Rosas, Luis Hernandez, Master Key 090, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Hablando en Español, MBT Plema Dolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho, Pombo, Pyramid Artisan Field Cloths and TCG Accessories, Ransom My Thing, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shifter.mp8, Sly Ninja 43, Susie's Strongest Soldier, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Uznik, Yuki Kazami, and Zircon Sun. Couldn't have done it without you.